Hello, everyone. I'm Joni from the Greater Haverhill Arts Association, and I want to welcome you to our very first Meet the Artists program. Okay, GHAA, which is the Greater Haverhill Arts Association, has a membership of a little over 100 people, and they're very awesome. And as the treasurer of the group, I see the names all the time and all that good stuff. Very rarely do I get to actually meet the artists, especially with the pandemic. We don't get as much time to socialize. Okay, so come visit our website. It's www.haverhillartsassociation.org. All right, and on that page you will see events, members, newsletters, a way to support us. Even if you're not an artist and you're just interested in art and want to help artists, absolutely. And you can always also join up. You can join and do some volunteering, hospitality. We have a lot of areas where we could really use a lot of help. Okay, so today, the very first artist I'd like to introduce you to today, his name is Bruce Wood, and we will talk to him and find out a bunch of cool stuff about him. And just 1 second, through the miracle of Zoom and other recording devices. Okay, so hang in there, and he will be with us in 1 second. Okay, we are back with Bruce Wood. He is our very first Meet the Artist candidate here, and we're excited to have you. And so I would like to know, how long have you been a GHA member?
Oh, gee, I don't know. Several years. I'm not sure exactly the date that I joined, but
I,
um, I've been there several years.
Nice, nice. I in the introductory part of this, I said, as the treasurer, I see a lot of names and whatnot, but very rarely do I actually get to meet the people. So
Yeah.
this is absolutely awesome to me. Okay, so I have to ask you, how did you get into the art business? How did you become an artist?
Well, that's a kind of an interesting question because it's. I mean, I can look at one point that kind of changed my mind into doing things.
That was
As a kid, I always built things, and I always was excited about finding new things and experimenting. Um, when I went to high school, I didn't take any art. I was into athletics and I did other things. So I didn't take any art when was in high school, and then I went off to college as a physical education major. And my last semester at the junior college in Arizona that I went to, I saw somebody doing some pottery. It was a raku style firing pottery. And
what kind?
it's called raku, Raku.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and it's very dramatic and very exciting to watch. And I stood there mesmerized watching these students do this. And I said to my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to do that. But then I graduated from that college and got married and had children. And then a few years later, decided to go back to school. So I went back to Northern Arizona University, and I walked in the doors and said, "Okay, I'm here, and I want to be an artist." And
I love it.
they said, "Okay, let's give it a shot."
And then you never turned back.
Yeah.
And this is some of the stuff that you are flashing at me. Oh, Raku, Raku pottery, firing. Okay, so I have to ask you: was that your mentor? Did you have a mentor? I see professor at Northern Arizona University. So,
Yeah, he was Don Bendel was one of the professors at Northern Arizona University, and I wanted to do pottery, so I met him through the pottery classes that were there, and he was just a tremendous man, and he was full of energy and full of excitement, and he kind of took me under his wing, and we just did everything we could together. His motto was just make art, just have
just
fun
make
and make art.
experiment with everything. Make
Yeah,
up.
and he would encourage all of his students just to go forward and just have a good time and make art and get better.
So have to ask, how important is a teacher? Now I teach art, and so and the students are always very complimentary. Oh, you're such a good teacher. But how important is it to have a good teacher, not just technically, but spiritually? One that tells you, just experiment with everything, just make art, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
I think it's vital. I know Don Bendel changed my whole philosophy towards pretty much everything in my life, because he would encourage people not to be afraid to try things. And we would go on clay hunting trips out in Arizona. We would build kilns and weld with coat hangers. It was just crazy.
Really?
One day he came to me and he said, Bruce, there's this Pioneer Living History Museum down in Phoenix, and they're looking for somebody to come down and build a wood burning kiln for them. He says, and I got a couple ideas. So we sat down and drew out some sketches. Next thing I know, we're down in the lot next to the building, laying out brick and actually building a kiln. And a couple hours later, the kiln was done, and then we ran around and scurried up some pottery and some firewood. And by that evening, we were actually firing in that.
Wow! Wow!
And what was interesting was after the firing, when we took everything out, we looked at the pottery and said, okay, we can tweak this a little bit. And we actually took that kiln down and built another one right in front of it using the same bricks to improve on that design. And then it was a couple weeks later that I went down to Phoenix and built that kiln for the Pioneer History Living Museum down in Phoenix.
Nice. I know. I just never thought about someone actually has to build the kiln.
Yeah.
So you did that. And I like that you said it affected all the other parts of your life because, it taught you not to be afraid to try new things and so on and so forth. And so, people, especially now during the pandemic and stuff, we're very social animals. And I think the fact that, when we're advised not to socialize so much anymore, I think, it's kind of an issue. We want to be together. We want to party.
Yeah, it's been hard.
The
pandemic has affected me in the beginning for the first several months.
Really?
I just didn't feel like doing anything. And
Really?
I had no motivation. The ideas weren't coming. I really struggled for several months to find something to do and to try to pull out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how did you get inspired? How did that happen?
I forced myself to, I have a shop down in my basement as well as my studio over in Lowell. And I would go in the basement and just kind of putter around and make stuff. And not very successful sometimes. And then I would go over to the studio in Lowell and I could talk at a distance, obviously, with the other artists. And they were going through the same things too. They were finding it difficult to get motivated to do the work.
Yeah.
And so through that, we all kind of just meandered through that until the creativity and the energy came back.
So do you feel like being with the other artists, even at a distance, kind of helped to motivate?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I worked. I've worked building things at my house for a number of years, and I didn't realize how much I missed the energy and the camaraderie of being with other artists, and the growth that I gained from that. I've been over at Western Avenue Studios for 11 years now.
Wow.
And, my art has grown exponentially from being over there.
Nice. Very nice. So if people want to go see your art there, how do they get there?
Western Avenue Studios is located on Western Avenue, 122 Western Avenue in Lowell.
Lowell.
And my business name is The Glass Ingot. And
I love it.
Right now, the building is only open by appointment. So if people wanted to come in, they could contact me, and I'd be more than willing to bring them up to my studio too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tell them how to contact you. We'll do it again at the end. We'll do it again. But for right now, how do they? How would they contact you?
They can contact me through my email at bwood@glassingot.com,
Okay.
or they can go to my website, which is glassingot.com, and all my contact information is on
Is
there.
there. Okay, so I'm going to have you repeat it again at the end, but I just wanted to give people a heads up to go get their pens and pencils and all that good stuff.
Okay.
So, what's the most fun thing for you with the art?
Um,
What do you enjoy the most?
I think experimenting with new ideas. I mean, I don't like to repeat the same thing over and over again.
Uh-huh.
So I just went through making a series of lamps for about the last 2 years, and it was always a challenge. I try to push myself to do something different, do something better, expand on what I already have. And when things start coming together, it's very rewarding. Just to see that you're trying a new direction, you're trying something new, and boy, that worked out really nice.
They start
On the other
to.
side, you have a lot of failures too.
Mhm.
But that's the game.
Talk about that. Talk about that, because the hardest thing with me, with my adult students, not the children students, they don't care how many times they have to do things. An adult thinks that they have to do things perfect the first time, and I say to them, a failure is just guidance. It's just more guidance. Talk about that a little bit.
I totally agree. You're going to have a lot of failures to get to your successes. But I look at failures as an opportunity to learn, because you're trying new things, you're improving yourself, you're pushing your envelope.
Yeah.
I've done some projects that I call my my crash and burn projects, where I have an idea and I want to start it, but I have no idea how I'm going to finish it. So I start it and I keep working to see how I can improve or complete this project. And as I go through it, I'm learning new techniques, I'm learning new skills. And if the project if the project fails, then I've still got all those tools in my background in order to do
That's
something
great.
else. But if it succeeds, then I have a whole new repertoire to go to.
I think that is so important. What you just said is so important. That even if you start a piece and it does not succeed, you still have the tools that you learned in trying to make it succeed. I like that. I could have totally steal that, so I hope that that's okay.
That is okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot of good parts. What's the worst part? What's the worst part of? And you're an artist that sells your artwork. A lot of artists just kind of do it on the side and whatnot. So what's the worst part of art for you? Is it the commercial end of it? What's the worst part?
I think that the worst part is when things don't work out. Making art is not like flipping a light switch and turning on your creativity and then you sit down and make art.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
So there's a process that goes in there, and sometimes everything just fits together and it's just so smooth and goes on, and you can just spend hours and hours and hours doing it. Other times, nothing happens, and
Right.
I will put myself in a position to make art with all my tools around me and all my environment, and work and work and work, and nothing happens, or nothing to my satisfaction happens, and you struggle, and you go, this it's just not working. And I have days like that where I just, everything that I do, I look at the end of the day, and it's like, well, nothing happened today. So you got to try again tomorrow.
Yep, I totally have days like that. And what I find for me personally is that it depends on my mood. If I feel like painting and drawing and so on and so forth, then things kind of go along smoothly. If I'm doing it because I have to meet a deadline or something, and my heart's not in it, then nothing comes out right. So
Yes, exactly, yeah.
You have to resonate with the work, I think.
And I also find that if I force myself into making things,
Right.
they don't come out as good.
Right.
If as if it's just a natural flow.
Right. It has a much freer feeling to it.
Yes.
There's a much freer feeling if you just kind of go with the flow. I know that's a kind of overused saying, but it's also true. If you can get into it and kind of resonate with what you're doing, things actually just seem to come out easier, better. And they have a nice feel to them. When people look at it, they feel something. You know, they're like,
Exactly, yeah.
it feels like,
Well, they feel part of you and the people.
yeah. Or they'll say, oh, you can tell you enjoyed making this one, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you have favorite pieces? I have favorite pieces that, I'm not so sure, not very many, but there are like one or two that I've kept that I don't sell at all. Do you have favorite pieces?
I do have favorite pieces, but usually, let me put up some of my favorite pieces while we talk.
I would love that. Yes.
Usually the pieces that I'm working on, and when I finish the most recent piece, that's my favorite because I really enjoy the process.
Is that like steampunk? This looks like Victorian punk.
Yes, I really like the steampunk genre.
Me too. These are awesome.
So I use a lot of that in my work. And again, these are some of the more recent things that I've done in the steampunk genre that I really like. But again, I do the work, and then when I'm done, I stand back and I'm so, excited about what I'm doing. But then,
that's awesome.
But then it's like, okay, what's next? This is actually a steampunk mandolin that I made.
I love it. I play ukulele. I need a steampunk ook.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a ukulele.
I see 6 strings.
Well, then it's not. Then it's the guitar.
The guitar.
I have no musical talent at all. So
I don't have much, but they haven't thrown me out of the group yet, so I persist.
a funny story with this one is when I finished it, I went down to the music store in Lowell to get some strings for it. And so I brought it into the store and I told the woman, I said, I need some strings for my small guitar here. And she looked at it and she says, what is that? I said, that's a steampunk guitar.
That's right.
She said, really? She said, how does that work? I said, well, you pour water in this area here and it goes down in there, and through a chemical reaction, it creates steam. And the steam goes through these tubes and then they vibrate along the strings and it plays music. And she said, really? And I said, no.
But that's because people don't know what steampunk is. People ask me that all the time because I have a few pieces myself. And they're like, well, what exactly is steampunk? I love that. Oh, these are cool. How big is this piece?
This is actually a 6-foot mannequin.
Really?
And she's got wings that stretch out to about a 7-foot wingspan. She's got a full jet pack.
Wow.
This was one of my summer projects that I did.
Nice.
And this was a piece that I did for a show that was called Unmentionables. And it was for, obviously the unmentionables, but it was also for things that we don't talk about.
I love it. I think that's awesome.
And that's a life-size piece, and it actually won Best in Show.
I am so totally not surprised. Where did it win Best of Show? Where have you shown these?
This was the gallery over in Lowell.
Oh, that steampunk turtle.
Yep. I have shown stuff, throughout the country. I just had a piece in the Newburyport, with the Rockport art show. This piece was in a show down in Maryland. This was made from an old vacuum cleaner that somebody gave me and a Nerf gun.
No, sir.
Yes, sir. So this piece here,
yeah,
the body is made out of a vacuum cleaner, and you can see.
Okay, like an Electrolux. What kind of vacuum cleaner? Looks like canister.
Yeah, it was a small canister type vacuum cleaner.
What is the piece in the front with the whiskers?
That's a Nerf gun. That's the front of a Nerf gun.
Oh my God.
And the fins on the side of Thor's helmet.
I love it. How heavy is that? How heavy are these pieces? Are I mean, part of an a vacuum cleaner. Are they heavy pieces?
No, they're mostly made of plastic.
Okay.
I paint them to look like they're made of metal.
Yeah.
I take all the guts, out of the vacuum cleaner, so it's just the plastic shell. So it doesn't weigh very much at all.
I love this one too.
That's about a 12-inch piece. That's a super.
The elephant. It's a steampunk elephant.
Yes, it's an
Elephant man.
Yep, that's it. This is this piece was just, when I had this piece, I just had the display done at the iHub in Haverhill. This is one of the pieces that I had there for my turn. And this was made out of two metal lamp shades and some combs for the teeth. I call that the piranha.
That's great.
This is from one of the series I told you I was making lamps. So this is one of the lamps that I have that's in my house.
So what was that square piece? What is that?
That was a control panel that came off some piece of machinery somewhere that I found.
I love it.
And I wired it up and made it into a lamp.
That is so cool.
And then I found this octopus at Savers up in Plastow. And so I turned that into a lamp.
That is totally amazing.
And I use a lot of computer mice to make little creatures.
Oh, you know what? I did not know what it was until you said that. I'm looking at it and I'm like, gee, something about that is familiar. Wait, go back to the heart. What was that one?
That's just a small wall hanging, probably about a 9-inch diameter, with a Palmer clay heart that I put in it, and an old clock face.
Cool. Cool.
This is another one of I did a series where I did the 3 sirens from Homer's Odyssey, and this was one of the sirens.
Amazing. So these things are made out of all different kinds of materials.
Yep. A lot of it is plastic.
Yeah.
Because plastic is very easy to work with. Here's a better shot of that bearded sea dragon that I showed you, so you can see the.
You can see the handle.
You can see the handle on the vacuum cleaner, and I put a spatula on the back end of it for the tail.
I love it. So where did these ideas come from? They just pop into your head?
Yeah. I mean, either through.
Why did I have you angry with me? You're way too imaginative.
I see things maybe different from the average person. I see things that I can pull out of the environment, and because of that, I have people giving me stuff all the time, and they don't know. They say, "Hey, here's some of my trash. Maybe you can use it for something." And one of the good example is my wife was cleaning out our pool shed one summer, and we had replaced the valve that does all the waterworks in it. And so she came out of the pool shed and she was holding this thing up, and she said, "Do you want this?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that's a submarine."
Of course, everyone knows that.
And she kind of looked at me like, "Yeah, okay." But then when I finished the project, it was a very Jules Verne steampunk style submarine.
Nice, Jules Verne, yeah. So, does your wife do any art?
No, she doesn't. I try to encourage her to do things, but I think she takes it as a competition, and that she wouldn't be able to.
Well, that's true. She might be a little intimidated. You're very
exactly, and I tell that's not what it's about. It's about you and your abilities and your ability to make art and your ability to be better today than you were yesterday.
Yeah, and just have fun. Just have a good time. If you're not enjoying it, don't do it.
Right.
Party, partay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So that was some of your favorite work and what makes it special for you because it's very unique to you? Just stuff that pops out of your head?
Yeah, and I like the challenge of engineering that stuff. You know, how do you put a vacuum cleaner in a in a a Nerf gun together to make it come out like
Yeah,
something?
most people would not associate the two, Bruce.
I made a piece. I was cleaning my studio, and then I picked up in one hand a dust buster, and in the other hand I picked up a vacuum cleaner handle. And as I picked them up and I walked across the room, I looked at him and I said, "Whoa, that's a shark!" And I made it. I put those two pieces together and made some fins on it and produced a
And sure
shark.
enough, it was a shock. They have vacuum cleaners called sharks, you know.
I have a shark vacuum cleaner that I made into a trout.
I guess you should send some pictures to that company. I bet they would be very interested in what you have. So I was going to ask you if you ever experienced a slump, but you're talking about the pandemic and slump because you weren't with other people. Some artists talk about like artist block type thing where they it's like a writer trying to write a book, nothing comes to them. Has that ever happened to you? As a
Oh
teacher, it hasn't happened to me because the students kind of, there are times when I feel like doing more than others, but
yeah, it does, and I think that's a good analogy. Is that again by being around people, they may give you inspiration that they don't even know that they're giving you.
exactly, exactly.
And it's just the idea, you talk to people and there's this idea is happening and that idea is happening. But there are times that, especially when I was making jewelry, that, I would work and I would work and I would work and nothing was going together. Nothing was happening. And it was so frustrating. Um, and then there were days where, nothing would happen, nothing would happen. And then the further I went along in the day, all of a sudden, I spend 3 hours working on something, making nothing. And then all of a sudden at the last hour, everything comes together. And, I can make 4 or 5 pieces in that last hour.
Sometimes it's the next day. I'll be working
Yeah.
on something and I'll be like, oh my God, why am I persisting here? And I just push it aside. And then I go look at it the next day or the day after and I go, oh, it was right in front of me the whole time.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to take a break. You need to put
Yeah,
things aside and get
absolutely.
your brain out of that mode and let it rest, and let it work in the background for you so that
Hmm.
when you come back, all of a sudden ideas pop up. I find that when I wake up in the morning, as my brain starts to ramp up, all these ideas that I had the day before come in, and the brain has added other things to it, going, well, why don't you try this and why don't you try that and look at this and how about that over there, and so I make all these things in my head before I get out of bed.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Okay. So what makes a piece successful? I mean, obviously, if other people like my artwork, I think that's really cool, but it's not good unless you like it yourself. What makes it successful? What makes a successful art piece?
Um, well, from two standpoints, from being a successful piece of mine, um, if it I'm like most artists, I'm a very big critic of myself, um, and I won't put anything out there that I'm not proud of or happy with. So a good piece of art has to satisfy me. It has to, you know, be something that I look at that if somebody else made, I would say, wow, I really like that. So pleasing me is a big part of it. Art in general, what makes good art is that's a really tough call because I understand that there's all different levels of art and people are always growing in their art. Um, so I hesitate to criticize any art because I don't know the backstory of how that person made it or where they are in their development,
Mhm.
um, or what's going on in their mind while they're making this. I mean, there's art that I like and there's art that I don't like. Um, but for criticizing other people, unless it's really horrible, terrible art. I was in a show. I shouldn't even say this. I was in a show in Maryland, and one of the other artists it was a nationally juried show, and one of the other artists put in this piece that was like 6 pipe cleaners that they had dipped in paint, and they had just bent it in all different directions, and it was just sticking up. And they had a price tag of $5,000 on it.
Wow.
And I mean, I was so upset that that piece had gotten in that I almost didn't want to submit my accepted piece, because it didn't meet the standards of a juried art show.
Yeah, and
You know,
that goes back to like what you said, opinions, evaluations, to that person it was a piece of art or something, certainly. But I can't tell you how many like students will go into a restaurant or something on that idea, and people will look at the art in the wall and they go, now, is it really a good piece of artwork, Johnny? Why is that there? And I'll say, well, to the artist, it is. It makes a difference who's looking at it, and actually, who is qualified to judge. There are a lot of art judges. They have a lot of experience. I've had my work professionally critiqued and whatnot. And so you have a tendency to kind of really value, what they're saying. But the truth is, you're right. You have to like it yourself. It doesn't matter if someone in the know says this is good or no good. It's up to you. You have to like it.
right. I have a saying that I use is when people have opinions about art or whether it's good or bad, I say opinions are like belly buttons. Everyone has one, but they're not much good for anything.
There for a minute, because I've heard it said another way, and I'm like, oh, he's not going to say that, is he?
Yeah. They're like belly buttons. Everybody's got them,
That's
but
it.
they're not much good for anything.
Yep. I heard it a little bit more crude, but I like your way better. The opinions are like belly buttons. I love it. So I have to ask you. I saw your favorite work, but you actually have you're proficient in a lot of different mediums here. I'm seeing pottery, photography, digital graphics, and all kinds of good stuff there.
Yeah, I was trained as a potter when I went to college.
Uh-huh.
I have a master's degree in art education with an extended major in ceramics.
Uh-huh.
So I've done ceramics, but when I moved from Arizona back to Massachusetts, I had to leave all my equipment out there because I couldn't bring it back.
Right.
But when I was in college, I took pretty much every art class that the college offered because I was just so excited to be in art school. And with that, I've also expanded into other areas. So I've done photography. I actually taught photography over at Pawtucket Regional High School for a while.
Wow.
But with the pottery, and I've done glass blowing and printed work. It's a variety of things. So again, that's nice also because if I get, kind of a block or I get tired of one thing, I can always jump into something else.
Yeah, I don't see what I would consider like classical or traditional. Like I didn't see oil painting, watercolors, anything that when I hear the word artist, I do think of these things too, but always oils, acrylics, blah, blah, blah. So you're just a non-traditionalist here.
Yeah, I think my weak link is drawing and painting. I don't feel as comfortable drawing and painting as I do working in three-dimensional art.
Yeah.
Although I'm working on a new series now that's all digital art. In fact, let me see if I can show you some of the new things that I'm working on here. There we go on here. Here we go. So these are all digital images that are built in my computer with Photoshop.
Are you building the images? You're putting the stuff together?
Yes, I'm building it from scratch with my library of bits and pieces and clock bulbs, and I have some cabinet the old vintage photos from the turn of last century that I'm using. Also line cuts put in there. I'm a big fan of Art Nouveau and steampunk. So I'm working on combining those.
Explain what Art Nouveau is.
Art Nouveau. Nouveau is a very it's a Victorian elegant style art form that's very very flowing, very very flowery. A lot of
I like just the sound of it. These are amazing.
so these are the recent pieces that I've been working on, and my intention is to print these out and offer for sale with some of the other stuff that I do.
Wow. Those are amazing. Those are amazing. This is
Thank you.
definitely your area. Oh, so up and coming artists, what's your advice to someone who's just starting out and wants to achieve this level of mastery? What's your advice?
Make a lot of it.
Make a lot of it?
A lot of it, yeah.
I
I find
agree with that. I've never heard anyone else say that. Go ahead, say it. I like it.
I think the more art that you make, the better you get at your techniques.
Mhm.
I know when I was doing pottery that what I would do is I would throw like 50 pots. And out of those 50 pots, you have to work them and trim all that. Out of those 50 pots, it was, I would keep maybe 25.
What'd you
And the
do
other,
with the rest?
excuse me?
What'd you do with the rest? Throw them out?
Oh yeah, you put them back in the mud slop and you use the clay over.
Oh, okay.
This is
And these are
before they're
non-fire. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
before they're fired. So then I have 25 pots, on the better side. So you bisque those, and then there may be 2 or 3 that you don't like after, so those get tossed, and then you glaze, fire them, and out of those, I mean, you may get 10 or 11, 12 pots that are the good ones.
Good
So
one.
out of 50, you get 10 good ones. But that teaching over at Kentucky Regional, I taught a pottery class. I found that it was very difficult for me to make pottery because I like to make one piece and get it right.
Yeah.
And I couldn't handle that. I had to make a lot of pieces so that I could do things. So the advice that I give to new artists is that make a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
So
And
basically,
always,
what you're saying is practice. Okay.
yeah.
That's exactly what it comes down to. Practice.
Well, and you practice to be better.
Right.
I know some artists, they practice to be the same, and that doesn't help them.
Yeah, I don't think that repetition necessarily facilitates greatness or better. I agree with you. So you can do it repetitively, but it should be with the idea that you're going to do it better.
Yes.
It should have faculty to it.
You try to
Absolutely.
be a better artist
Yes,
today than you
yes,
were
yes, yes.
yesterday.
Absolutely, absolutely. And don't judge yourself against other artists. I think that's really important too. Students do that all the time. They'll say, well, mine is not as good as so-and-so's. I'll be like, so what? It's better because it's yours. It's your own creation. And so I think trying to get them to not judge. Like you said, your wife would probably be intimidated by your level of artistry, and she's just a beginner. And I think a lot of students do that in general. So how do you get them to stop doing that? I have a hard time getting them to stop doing that. Like, stop that.
Well, it's self-confidence, and
Yes.
it's not easy being an artist because you put your heart and soul into your work, and then you hang it up on a wall for the whole world to look at it
Right.
and give their opinions about it.
Right.
And some people, they don't have a thick enough skin to take those opinions, so they won't present their art to anybody, or they won't even do it.
Yeah, that's
have
a
a
very
little bit
good
of thick skin.
Yeah, that's a very good point. A lot of us are not brought up. We're not brought up that way. It's like your people, your parents or whatever, and nothing against parents. Everyone does the best they can. They have a tendency to critique more than you're really great at this, this and that. So we grow up thinking that.
Uh,
I have found that people accept critique a lot easier than they do compliments. Okay, if I go to someone and say, "Hey, that sweater, I don't know, it doesn't look so great on you. It's a little tight there." Oh yeah, I knew when I put it on, blah blah blah. But if you say, "Oh my God, you look absolutely amazing," that, "Oh well, I just threw it on," type of thing.
yeah, that's
So we have a hard time. We have a hard
yes.
time with the compliments.
You
So
got to develop your self-confidence to.
yeah, yeah. Or at least think of yourself as a student. People will say to me, you wear a lot of hats. What's your vocation? I say, I'm a student of life. 'Cause I don't know anything. I'm still learning everything. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
that's good
so
philosophy.
if you can't identify with being a winner or this, at least be a good learner, someone who likes to learn. I'm a student, this type of thing. So they have a hard time accepting rejection or failure. So, uh, so the backstory to being a successful artist is what? What goes on behind the curtain? I liked your answers to this little. We kind of do these little questionnaire type things. So tell me
Well,
that.
I think it's important because having a studio over at Western Avenue, we have our open studios. I'll get 100 people on that day come through my studio, and all they see is the finished work, the
Right,
display, and I get some nice comments on it, but they don't see what happens behind the scenes. Is
they don't see the 50 pots beforehand.
exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
there's
totally.
it's like anything else in life. There's work that goes on to get to a finished item,
Right.
and being an artist is no different. You have to do the marketing and the social media and the advertising, and you have to collect your supplies, and you have to seek out inspiration, and
Yeah,
um, there's they don't see all the failures that happen, or you make a beautiful piece and all of a sudden you knock it on the floor and you break it into a million pieces. They don't see that. What they see is the piece that's on the shelf
right,
that's finished.
right,
um,
right, right.
and I think that sometimes they look at artists as being these magical magician people that just
Yeah,
that take nothing and make something beautiful out of it, and that it's all fun and games. It's just a lot of fun to. I would love to be an artist because you don't do anything but sit around and drink coffee and paint and have a wonderful time. Well, there's a lot more that goes into it than that.
there is, there is. It's like anything else, you have to practice at it. I find some people kind of have a flair for it, but even those people need to learn how to make things look three-dimensional, get some perspective, blah, blah, blah. And you're right. I have noticed that the general opinion is if you're an artist, you were born that way. It didn't take any effort. Like you said, you just sit down and you create, and all is absolutely wonderful. I had a student in the studio this morning, and she's like, I just don't have the natural ability that you have, Joan. And I cracked up laughing for about 10 minutes. I said, are you kidding? It took me 3 years how to make a mug look 3D.
Yeah,
And they do. They have that thought that you're just born this way. But it's like anything else that you value, you have to work at it. Definitely have
yeah,
to work at it.
absolutely. I mean, this and you could be the greatest artist in the world, but if nobody sees it, then you
Good. Yeah.
are just the greatest artist in your own band. Um,
It
and I,
greatest
you know, I,
student. I love it.
I sell my art. So if you're an artist that sells your work, then there's a whole nother line that goes into it. You have to advertise and market and sell and know how to use social media and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Researcher, shipper, delivery boy, bookkeeper, social media. Yeah. All of that stuff.
and,
And
and that's something that most artists don't want to do. I
I
don't
was
want to
just
do it.
going to
I'd
say,
rather,
I don't want to do that.
I mean, I want to create art.
Yeah.
But after a while, I've got a studio full of stuff that I,
Right.
I need to move to make room for.
Right. 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 Absolutely, absolutely.
I have a saying that I use is that artists don't like to sell their work. They want people to buy it.
That's that's actually very profound. It's also very true. You know, you don't necessarily, but if I find someone who really, I mean, I sell my work too, and like I said, there's a couple of pieces that I just didn't sell and probably won't ever sell, but it's like two pieces in like 50 years. Do you know what I mean? The rest, if someone really looks at it and say, "Oh my God, I love this," you're kind of, it's like a child. You're happy it found a happy home, you
Yeah.
know? And
That validation that you get from somebody actually purchasing a piece
yeah,
is very rewarding.
yes, yes, absolutely it is. Um, Are you familiar with sci-fi cons called Erasure and Boscone that are done in
Yeah.
Boston?
Yes.
Do you ever, because I mean, they're all about the steampunk. When I was looking at your work, that's exactly what I thought of. Do you ever consider doing anything there? I mean, this year, but in past years, I want to say the past 15 years, I have been exhibiting work there. And you'll have to look into that if you haven't already.
I have some people that I know that do some of the planning and run some of that, and they do
Oh,
tell me
cool,
to
cool.
go into and do that. But again, it's one of those things that in order to do a show anywhere, it's a lot of work. You're packing stuff up, lugging stuff out. If it's outside, you're setting up a tent. You're the weather conditions may not be the greatest.
Yeah,
Um, I did the steampunk festival down in Waltham a
Waltham.
couple
Yep,
of years
yep,
ago. It's a big festival down there.
yeah.
Uh, but an overcast day, so it wasn't the greatest. That's all right. But I found that people loved to look at my work, and I got a lot of good feedback on it. But people were more interested in walking around with the costumes that they had made, showing them off.
Right.
So it was almost like Halloween in May,
Yeah,
where people were showing off all their costumes, and that was what it was about for them. So
right,
I didn't do very well at that
right.
festival,
Yeah,
but I had to be up at the crack of dawn, get the car, drive down to Waltham, lug it across the park, unpack, set it up, and at the end of the day, put it all back in the car and bring it back.
yeah. I have to tell you, I agree with you. I'm not too big on outdoor stuff, only because exactly what you said. And no matter how good I am packing stuff, I always have something gets damaged, which
Yep.
totally breaks my heart. And you can never really be sure about the weather, so on and so forth. So at this point in my life, I'm kind of semi-retired and a little bit more picky, I guess, about where I'm exhibiting. But
Sure.
Aresia and Boscona, both inside,
Right.
they average about 50K, 5,000 people are walking through that show. And do a little bit more research there. I just really see you there. And, I haven't sold a lot of stuff there, but I have sold enough pieces that it makes it worth it. There's a great deal of networking. It's in Boston, so people are either there looking or they're trying to add to their collections.
Right.
And
Yeah, I will. I'll have to check that out again.
check it out, check it out. I mean, they've gone viral this year and maybe next year, I'm not sure. But I have been attending there for almost 20 years. And
Wow.
it's an experience and a half, or even if you don't have artwork, it's a wild ride, to say the least. But we'll have to stay in contact, and yeah, I'll meet you there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I have to tell you, unless you have more that you'd like to say, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm thrilled. Your work is absolutely awesome and
Thank
beautiful
you.
and all that good stuff. And again, people, if you want to know how to get in contact with Bruce, get your pencils because he's going to tell you once again how to do that.
My email address is bwood@glass, ingot, ingot.com.
Okay, good,
My
good.
website is glassingot again.com.
All right. Do you have a Facebook presence? Are you doing like, not Twitter, what's the other one?
Instagram.
Instagram. There we go. Everyone's on Instagram. Okay.
I have an Instagram account that is called my phone is ringing here.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. We all have phones. At least we used to. Now we just have cell phones.
My Instagram account is glass.ingot.
Okay. Good. Good. Because I know a lot of people use those. So if you have a presence there, why not? You know.
Yeah, and that's where I put most of my my current work.
Nice.
Is I have a business page called the Glass Ingot, and I have the Instagram that I'm posting on almost on a daily basis.
And people can come and see you in Lowell.
Yes, 122 Western Avenue in Lowell. The building right now is only open by appointment, so if
So call.
you get in touch with me, you can definitely make an appointment, and I can meet you there and bring you up to the studio.
That is totally awesome. You are an awesome person. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You are very, very welcome, my dear. You have an awesome day and be legendary, my friend. You already are.
Thank you. Thank you very much.